On this edition of Somerville Neighborhood News, we'll take a look back at the top stories of 2015 and what's ahead in 2016. All that and more tonight on Somerville Neighborhood News.
Hello and welcome to this year-end review of Somerville Neighborhood News. Today is December 29th, 2015. I'm Joe Lynch. Tonight, we take a look at some of the stories from 2015 that will continue to shape Somerville in 2016 and the coming years. New development is everywhere in the city. The key is to balance the benefits of increased tax revenue, both commercial and residential, while preserving neighborhoods and guaranteeing affordable housing. Last year, City Hall undertook the complete overhaul of the zoning code. Many of the changes focus on transportation-oriented developments around the proposed Green Line stations, which will allow for greater density and increased building heights, as well as looking at parking and affordability issues. Public meetings on the zoning changes have been full of lively debate.
The city held a meeting in order to receive public feedback.
But then at the same time, we are bringing new people into this process. We are plugging our residents and stakeholders in who have never participated in civic affairs. And isn't that consistent with Somerville's identity? Isn't that how all of the great things happening in this community have been built?
Participants divided into groups according to their interests, affordable housing and community benefits being one of them.
Sometimes a developer will do something that they're not zoned for, and then I hear like many stories of, well, they built it anyway, and then they went and said, I can't change it, I did it, and it's a hardship for me to change it.
Director of Planning George Proakis and other staff answered concerns, like the increase in new condos.
And I don't think the zoning is going to have anything. I mean, and of course, the only thing they now do is luxury condos. Any condo that's built is now luxury.
One of the most significant problems is a combination of a national demand for more urban and more interesting places to live, combined with a regional shortage of 400,000 housing units.
Some of those who braved the cold said the meeting was helpful.
I can read the zoning ordinance and kind of try to figure out best I can what it means, what are the implications, but to be able to actually talk to the people who developed the ordinance and be like, what does this part mean? You know, and they just can explain it in a way that's much more accessible. So that was really helpful.
Residents filled out forms to give more feedback. Alderman Niedergang and his colleagues on the Board of Aldermen have final say on the new ordinance.
I'm looking for help, I'll be honest. I'm not a planner by profession. This is complicated and it's very important, and you know, the more people have looked at the issues and have suggestions, the better job I can do when it comes time to vote.
We've gotten some really constructive feedback. In some cases, people don't like some things. Okay, it's incumbent upon us to provide, and George Proakis is going to talk about this, to provide some information back to the public and the board.
And he made a plea for the board to collaborate with the planning department.
And to some point, we will land in what I hope will be a common place.
Express some concerns about how the process began, how this was, placed upon us, and with our goal and our obligation to the citizens.
At some point, we're voting on this, and we're making decisions. And I feel like we've had several meetings. I feel like we should, as a board, be coming up. Our concerns should be listened to, and that should adjust for what you're going to do, what you're going to present to this community.
Housing affordability has been a growing issue as Somerville real estate values increase by double digits. Renters and buyers are finding themselves priced out. News Director Heather Avison checked in on the record-breaking spring real estate market.
Claudine Kohick and her husband Evan are looking for a house for themselves and their two young sons. They've been working with Thalia Tringo of Thalia Tringo and Associates. Tringo has been selling real estate in Somerville for 13 years, and she's never seen the market as hot as it is now.
Starting in 2011, we started to see, the number of competitive offers increase. 2012 was, a lot of competitive offers, 2013 more, 2014 more, and 2015 more. But as I say, I think this is probably the peak.
After a few weeks of working with Thalia, identified a property on Hinckley Street that seemed perfect for us, and so we then engaged in the bidding war and unfortunately lost. We came into it thinking we were really strong candidates because we offered, I don't know, something like 11% above asking. We did a pre-inspection, so we had somebody come and inspect the home so that we could then waive the contingency, making our offer even stronger. But others had done that too, and in the end, we didn't have the highest offer, and so we found out that we lost to an offer that was something like 16% above asking.
And they're not alone. According to statistics compiled by the Bean Group real estate firm, the Somerville housing market is booming. The average price of a house in Somerville has risen close to 20% over the last year, peaking at $696,000 in June, and selling prices now average 105% above the asking price. We met Shane Marion, owner of Benoit Realty, at a recent open house. With 14 years' experience in Somerville, he sees the same things happening to his clients.
The average investor learns the hard way. They're competing with a lot of cash buyers, a lot of no contingency buyers, and they learn by losing out, and then they start writing up stronger offers if they can.
Most properties, if they're reasonably priced, will come on the market on, say, a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. There'll be showings and open houses through the weekend, and then offers are usually due Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And for a lot of properties, there are multiple bids. So it's a pretty short window, and most things will go under agreement within a week.
What's driving the Somerville market?
We are in a marketplace with basically finite inventory. So we never really overbuild because we don't have any land to build on.
With the additional factors of ease of transportation, like the red line and the green line coming in, it's really jacking up the prices of those homes that are local to those things.
I think reputation is really driving the market in Somerville. Somerville's reputation continues to get better and better and better. Like I said, a lot of foreign investments coming here now.
According to the most recent Bean Group report, 49% of homes currently for sale in Somerville are listed above $800,000. Only 16% are below $400,000. Affordable housing advocates say they can't wait for relief from high rents until the zoning overhaul is complete. They gathered more than 500 signatures in support of a petition to amend the inclusionary housing section of the city's zoning code now. The petition calls for an increase in the percentage of affordable units in all apartment developments of 6 units or more and an enhanced calculation of affordability. A public hearing earlier this month drew a capacity crowd to the Alderman's chambers.
We talk about Somerville being a diverse community. If we don't have affordable housing in Somerville, we can kiss diversity goodbye. We talk about Somerville being a great place to live, work, and raise a family. If we don't have affordable family-sized housing, then maybe most of the people that Somerville will be able to house in a few years will be households like myself that forgot to have children.
Our city has clearly become a great place to live, work, play, raise a family, and I would add, to go to school. But I think that ability to go to school here in Somerville is under threat. We have a great superintendent, we have wonderful teachers, but quite frankly, our student base is being priced out of this district.
And I've spent the last 25 years representing low-income people, trying to prevent them from having to leave their homes and leave the city. So I wanted to say a couple of things. The first, obviously, and David really helped us, is why now? Why the rush? Why do we have to do this? And I think you guys, I don't need to spend a lot of time on this. Thousands of people on the SEC wait list, thousands of people on the Somerville Housing Authority wait list. They're closed. I don't have anywhere to put people on lists anymore. And it is absolutely essential while we have a boom in development that we take advantage of this time.
The new zoning package was originally scheduled to be voted on by the end of June 2015. A revised version will now be submitted to the Board of Aldermen in 2016. The Green Line extension continues to top the news. In August, it was revealed that the project was almost $1 billion over budget, putting it in danger of being canceled altogether. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation and the newly formed MBTA Fiscal and Management Control Board are taking a long look at revising the project. SNN was at the December 10th meeting.
It was standing room only as Department of Transportation Secretary Stephanie Pollock outlined the three options for the GLX being considered.
So the first option is to build the project as currently designed and delivered and use Commonwealth funds to fund any available cost overruns. The second option that we said would be on the table and would remain on the table until such time as we had a path forward would be to cancel the project. The third option would be to substantially reduce the costs and fiscal impact of the Green Line extension through a combination of redesign, re-procurement or modification of the existing procurement, and seeking additional funding from non-Commonwealth sources.
After listening to public comment and hearing impact reports, the board voted to take only one option off the table, proceeding under current conditions. With canceling the project still in the mix, board members sought to reassure the public.
And we're not against GLX at all. We just have an obligation to make sure that that if we do approve it, that it's approved in the right way, and that we're not facing another $380 million that isn't producing what you put the task on us to do, which is to produce a project that is of value to you. So we take that seriously. Nobody up here doesn't, including me, and we're going to continue on to make sure that this thing's done and is done correctly.
The board did vote to transfer financial control from the MBTA to the Fiscal Control Board for the next 90 days.
So the concern has been expressed while we're trying to sort all this out. Shouldn't there be a kind of pause so that unless they come back to the control board, no decisions can be made, no more money can be spent, no more contracts can be let. So the purpose of the motion that was just seconded is to basically take that power back from the MBTA, leave it in the hands of the control board for a 90-day period during which you guys would then have the breathing space to sort out a lot of very difficult issues that you heard about today.
A revised bidding process, as well as possible design and service cutbacks, are being looked at. One key to moving the project forward seems to be increased financial support from stakeholders.
There's currently under state law no specific legal mechanism for collecting money from private owners who benefit from infrastructure projects and using that money for the project. So the only mechanism we really have at this point would be voluntary contributions that would be made in a form that was enough of a legal commitment that we could actually count on it and that we could put it in our finance plan. We have serious offers from both city manager of the city of Cambridge and Mayor Summerville to work with us, with those communities, and with developers.
Secretary Pollock and her team, the governor's team, have been very transparent, engaging with us. They're looking for ideas. They're trying to be creative. So for some people, it seems there's a lot of stuff out there to consider. Well, we want them to consider a lot of things. We want to build the best Green Line project, extension project, while being fiscally responsible. And I feel really confident that this will serve as a model of how we approach and tackle complex problems. And it's so important as we think about the other transportation investments we need for the Commonwealth. So again, a lot of it, this has been a collaborative process. I expect it to be so as we move forward.
After the public meeting, members went into executive session to continue discussions. The next day, 4 current contractors were out. Project manager, HDR Gilbane, builder, White Skanska Kiewit, estimator, Stanton Constructability, and designer, AECOM, HNTB, will no longer be involved. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Heather Avison.
Many of the current GLX construction projects are wrapping up ahead of the winter season, giving the boards a little breathing room as they consider all the options. SNN will continue to follow this story. The current Green Line extension into Union Square is also at the heart of redevelopment in this area. Developer US2 is in place and designs are being refined. The latest redevelopment vision was unveiled to the community when the Somerville by Design team presented its neighborhood plan draft at a November meeting. Over 100 residents and city officials attended, and we were there.
So this is very much a draft. This is a living document right now. We want your input. As part of the Somerville by Design process, this is a key step to put the plan out there before it's completely cooked and let everyone sort of make sure we're heading in the right direction and filling in some missing pieces. So the plan highlights, what's really important here is not just the physical realm, what is the future of Union Square and the neighborhood, but also what are the numbers associated with that? How many jobs are we creating? And there's a very important balance between commercial growth and residential growth that we have tried to aim for that comes out of Summer Vision. And that's really a 60-40 split between commercial growth and residential growth. This is sort of the bow tie, street network. And you can see here sort of the square, sort of really thinking about how to enhance Sanborn Court. This main intersection at Webster, Washington, Bow, and Somerville, how do we make that really work well for everyone in the neighborhood? Now D1 is an important transition parcel. It has to kind of slope down to meet the neighborhood, sort of hold that street frontage on Washington Street as well as on the main square. But it's also a great parcel for larger format office and commercial development, in addition to a centralized sort of parking facility. Looking at a redevelopment of the site with a number of phases, a number of buildings, a smaller sort of 5-story structure here, a mid-block lane, and then this is a really key opportunity for a library and a community innovation center. This might be a great place to put civic uses and keep them in Union Square. And then moving forward, sort of looking back, this is Prospect Street. There's the post office. And there's D1 there, kind of meeting the plaza space.
My question is about the plan holistically. How will this be implemented? What is the accountability on part of the city, on developers who will work in the neighborhood, and on residents? What does the enforcement of the plan look like? Is this a requirement or a suggestion? And how will this plan play out in our neighborhood?
The easy question is we don't know. Part of it is this neighborhood plan is an aspirational document. This is supposed to establish a vision, establish a set of aspirational goals and objectives. What in our experience we find is that if it's a strong vision and the community is continuing to have dialogue around it, implementation opportunities bubble up that might not have been conceived of when a plan might have been written.
The entire 164-page report is available at somervillebydesign.com. The city has engaged the Urban Advocacy and Research Group, LOCUS, to facilitate negotiations on a public benefits agreement for Union Square. 2 additional working sessions, open to the public, will take place in January. Meanwhile, construction continues at Assembly Row. The Partners Healthcare 1 million square foot complex is well on its way to completion, while plans for an additional 1 million square feet of condominium, rental housing, and office space are in development. And across the river in Everett, Wynn Resorts continues to move toward final approval of their proposed $1.7 billion resorts casino. In September, Wynn received a crucial state environmental approval, and it didn't take long for the city of Somerville to challenge the state's decision in court. The city disagrees with the conclusion that Wynn's cleanup of the 34-acre contaminated site is a public benefit. The next confrontation with Wynn looks to be the developer's plan to build a footbridge connecting the resort to the Orange Line station at Assembly Row in Somerville. Municipal elections took place in Somerville this November, but you may not have noticed because low voter turnout was the big story. With only a few contested races, just 14% of registered voters went to the polls. The most highly contested race, however, was in Ward 6 for the seat held by outgoing Alderman Rebecca Gawartz. Lance Davis won the seat with 60% of the vote. In other races, Alderman-at-large incumbents Jack Conley, Mary Jo Rossetti, Dennis Sullivan, and Bill White were re-elected. And for the third consecutive term, Bill White will be returning as Board of Aldermen President at next month's inaugural ceremonies. On the school committee front, both Adam Sweeting of Ward 3 and Christine Rafal of Ward 4 chose not to seek re-election. The winners for these seats were Lee Erica Palmer, school committee-elect in Ward 3, and Andre Green in Ward 4. Events around the nation have certainly had their effect on Somerville. In August, Mayor Curtatone responded to the police shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, as well as the controversial deaths of Eric Garner and Freddie Gray involving police by raising a Black Lives Matter banner at City Hall. I spoke with Mayor Curtatone and Chief Dave Fallon about race relations on a special edition of Greater Somerville.
The problems we have, the societal problems, the lack of social progress in the country are generational. They didn't happen overnight. We've invested in that lack of progress. And we need to understand that while the United States ranks near the top in GDP and social progress, we rank 16th in the world. Mortality rates, health rates, access to economic opportunity. That's what you're seeing in these cities.
I mean, if anybody's, maligned in the community or feels like, they're not receiving justice, I mean, we need to assist them in becoming part of the community, moving towards a community of inclusiveness.
At City Hall, change is constant. Two key figures in the administration are moving on. Ed O'Donnell, Director of Economic Development for 2 years, is returning to the Boston Redevelopment Authority to oversee their real estate holdings. And the mayor's longtime right-hand man, Omar Boukili, is heading across the Mystic to work for the newly elected mayor of Everett. Somerville Neighborhood News and Scat TV would also like to note the passing of the longest-serving Board of Aldermen member, Tom Taylor. Taylor served Ward 3 in this city for many years before stepping down for health reasons in 2013. Tom lost his battle with cancer earlier this year, but will always be remembered for his compassion, loyalty, and sense of duty. Here at Scat TV in May, founding news director Jane Regan handed the reins over to Heather Avison. And in September, we said goodbye to longtime executive director Wendy Blum. The Alderman's Chamber was full of supporters and well-wishers when she was recognized by city and state officials for her 11 years of Scat TV leadership.
I think Scat is just a model of promoting diversity and activity and civic engagement. And it's a model that is really rare. I know that diversity doesn't come easy. It takes work. And that is what you've done over your tenure, and I'm just so happy that you've been here, and I'm sorry you're leaving. This is just a little token from us. Thank you so much.
At the school department, Superintendent Tony Parentazzi retired after almost 9 years on the job. Parentazzi is credited with bringing Somerville's system-wide MCAS results up to one of the highest performing urban districts in the state. When the doors opened at city schools in September, new school superintendent Mary Skipper was there to greet students. Ms. Skipper brings a wide range of experience from the classics to emerging technology with her. She also brings a local perspective. Our own Heather Avison sat down with Ms. Skipper this summer. Here's an excerpt from that conversation.
A lot of the demographics of your school community are going to be similar here in Somerville as they were in Dorchester. Yes. Economically disadvantaged, cultural diversity. Yes. How are you going to translate that experience to Somerville?
So, one of the things that interested me in Somerville is that it sort of is a small version of Boston, but with all of the richness, the diversity that Boston has. And that was really the type of district I was looking for. I wasn't actually actively thinking about going into a superintendency. I was actually pretty happy in Boston. But when the opportunity came up and I was sort of looking at the superintendencies, the only place that I was interested in was here. And it was for this very reason that I think, it brings just an incredible richness of language and culture, experience all in one place. And that I see as, positives in every way, shape, and form. So I intend to build on that. I think our staff is hungry to explore that area. We'll be doing work certainly around cultural proficiency. But also, I think that technology is a wonderful way to actually universally bring people together.
Now, I know you said that was the reason that you wanted to come to Somerville, but I think there might be another reason that you haven't shared with us, is that you're a local girl. This is your backyard.
I am. Coming back here, this parts of Somerville, it's as if it didn't change at all, and then there's other parts that I don't recognize and I'm still trying to get used to, relearning the streets, the shortcuts. But it's a familiarity which speaks of home. I grew up right in the Dilboy area, and I worked. I used to come down to Davis Square for Sacco's to bowl and to eat at Steve's Ice Cream, and the Rosebud, with the diner. So I certainly knew, the different parts of Somerville. I worked for Food Master, as I shared in my interview, which I think, interestingly enough, people resonated with. But that was all part of the area I grew up in. To come back and work with students who live here now and be able to sort of have some of that shared experience, and to be able to, give them the same opportunities that I got growing up, for education, for work, for life. I think that's in part what really called me back to this area.
Somerville Superintendent Parentazzi hasn't gone too far, though. He currently is heading the Somerville High School Building Committee. The school complex has been around for over 100 years, and it's showing its age. Brendan Donahue reported on the progress being made towards a 21st century learning facility.
Back in January of 2014, the city submitted a statement of interest to the MSBA. That statement, the MSBA reviews it, and this project was selected to be included in the MSBA program.
MSBA stands for Massachusetts School Building Authority, the state government group that helps local communities build affordable, efficient, and sustainable public schools. Being selected by MSBA means Somerville gets a base reimbursement of almost 72% of costs, with a maximum of 80% of costs being reimbursed.
Now we are in Module 3, which is the feasibility study. This module requires that the city go through due diligence in reviewing this site, this building, as well as other sites, as they've talked about, to figure out what is the best option for the city.
With land at a premium in the city, the question of where to put a new school is central. Possible locations include Trum Field and the Department of Public Works, Foss Park, and the current location on Highland Ave. However, the use of public park space for a school would require the setting aside of new land for public use.
And so what we don't want to do is have communities pitting school use versus open space use, right? These should be cohabitable and important components of any healthy community.
The results of the feasibility study will determine whether it makes more sense for Somerville to renovate or rebuild. And congratulations to the Somerville High School quiz team. They are one of 16 teams set to compete in the WGBH High School Quiz Show televised tournament. In 2014, Somerville made it to the semifinals. The 7th season of High School Quiz Show premieres Saturday, February 6th at 6 p.m. on WGBH2 with Somerville High School front and center. That's our newscast for tonight. We'll be back on January 12th at 7 p.m. on Channel 3. Check out all of our news stories at somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. You can find us on Facebook, SCA-TV SNN, Twitter at SCA-TV SNN, or you can call us at 617-628-8826 or email us at news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Joe Lynch. You can join me on Greater Somerville Tuesdays at 7:30 on Channel 3. On behalf of everyone here at Somerville Neighborhood News and SCAT TV, I'd like to wish you all a happy, healthy, and safe holiday season. Happy New Year. Thank you, our viewers, for supporting Somerville Neighborhood News. And we'd like to thank everyone who makes this show happen every day, including our reporters, contributors, and the staff here at SCAT TV. Thanks for joining us. See you next year.